Hello, I'm Anu from Nurturing Green and welcome to the brand new series of plant care where I talk about A to Z of on the cares of these lovely plant babies. And today we'll be talking about one of the best plants on universe, which is Aglaonemas. Yes, Aglaonemas for long has been one of the best indoor plants, and it is not just in India but across the world they have been known for. They're the only plants in the world which has these lovely leaves and which are non-green also, and bring these beautiful colors which not just make the indoors more beautiful but also more lively also. But I think a lot of people have this problem of buying Aglaonemas, but everybody comes and says, well, my Aglaonema's leaves keep going down, मेरे पत्ते हर बार जलते रहते हैं और सड़ जाते हैं. And today I'll talk about the plant care on why these happen and what are the 4 things you should do to make sure your plants are always thriving, healthy and bushier. So let's go and talk about the first point. The first and the most important point which Aglaonemas are very sensitive to is water. Yes, watering and overwatering kills the Aglaonemas a lot, and I think overwatering is something which kills the Aglaonemas much faster than underwatering. So when you are watering it, always make sure that your plant or your roots get the enough water. So a lot of time when we spray the water, we just do it on the top, but water doesn't goes down to the roots. So always make sure that when you are watering from the top, and by the way, you should always water it from the top only. Don't put watering from the sides, from the cans. Always use a spray model where the leaves also gets the enough good watering and any bug or dust moves out. Whenever you're watering, always make sure that there is a trickling of water which comes down to the tray. So which means that all the roots have got the water. But now it brings to the 2 aspects of it: how much watering and how often the watering. So how much, you should always make sure that whenever you're watering, you get a good spray to the plant, that the roots get enough water and the water trickles down from the base. That means that the roots have got the base. Always make sure that it's been trickling, so you have a very good hole at the base. All the planters have them, but in case you are using them just as a planter, then you need to put a separate pot also inside it. That the roots should not accumulate water with itself. And this is which brings it to the second point, which is how often. So don't water the plant until it's dry down again. So Aglaonemas especially don't like a complete dry spell or a complete wet spell. So they like to go wet and then it gets dry and again they want to get the water. In this case, if you look at, I have these cocopeats with us. So whenever you have watered it and the water has trickled down, it should look like this. And whenever next you should water it, you should also look at the spoon test or the screen test. In this, that you look at the soil or a media and see if it's light brown is when we should do it. So in this case, ideally it depends on the weather and which geography you are in, but it is ideally 2 to 3 times is what you water it in the summers, and in winters you obviously reduce down. So for example, if it's in rainy season where the humidity is very high and there's no evaporation of the water happening, you don't have to water the plant. Right, so if you keep watering it every second day and it's trickling down, the water will start clotting at the roots, and you will see fungal activity and your leaves stooping down, or getting rot, and that's a signal that there is too much of overwatering which is happening. So always make sure that don't give a very dry spell or don't give a very wet spell. So water the plants, and then the second watering should happen once your cocopeat or your media goes toward a drier side. So I've shown you 2 sides of it. This is a dry side. If I put my hand there and I look at it, it sort of trickles, has a lot of water inside in it, and it should go towards a dry side. So dry is also not good. This is too dry. So if it goes there also, then also the roots are not getting the enough water to grow their own food. And that's why it's important that you do the watering depending on how the evaporation rates are and wherever you have placed it. So for example, you have placed it indoors, evaporation will be lesser. If you put it outside, it's higher. If it's summers, it's higher. If it's winter, it's lesser. If it's high humidity areas like Goa or the beach sites, then the evaporation is less. If it's a dry area, especially North India, it's fast enough. Also, when you're watering, make sure that you spray it, because plants like humidity also, especially Aglaonema. Aglaonema comes from Southeast Asia by its origin, and there the humidity is usually high. So always make sure that the humidities are there. So you can do some sprinkling and misting also when there are very dry summers and the humidity is less than 50%. If it's more than 50%, then you don't need to do it. And that's what comes for the watering part of it, where you have to look at the how often and how much as a question. The second aspect, which is a very important aspect, is a placement, which defines a lot of criteria. For example, the temperature, the light, and also the humidity. So for example, I have placed it at the windowsill. There it's bright light, which is good enough. The temperature doesn't goes very high because it's a windowsill, so it's indoors, so you don't get exposed to the outdoor temperatures of 40-45. So indoors usually temperature is 20 to 24 degrees, and that's why they thrive really well at the windowsills, right? Because they get the right optimum temperature and the optimum humidity as well as the light. And Aglaonema ideally requires low lights only. They can do okay at 500-700 lux. They thrive at 1000 to 1500 lux. Temperature wise, they don't like cold and they don't like heat. So at 45 degrees, you will see a lot of tip burns happening in. If it's too much of heat, too much of cold, then you will see that the plants are stooping down because they can't sustain the cold. So that means again your temperature has to be managed at the room temperature only. Don't take it to the extremes anywhere. Somewhere around 20 to 30 is what any Aglaonemas feels good about it. Humidity also, they don't like a lot of humidity or very light humidity. So anything from 60 to 80%, which is usually inside homes, is good enough. And the lux, which you can check it from any of the apps are available, or you can have the these meters which comes in for the light meters to check that what's the light in your area. So if you're putting in a washroom and if you have a very nice halogen, that's also suffices because it gives a good lux level. A 300, 200 watt sort of a thing will give somewhere around 1000 to 1500 lux, which you can check it wherever you are putting your plant. Ideally, whenever you buy these Aglaonemas, put it at the windowsills because they get the best of the bright light, temperature is controlled, and so is humidity. So these aspects of the second point, which is our placement, is very important, and that's something you should look about it. The third important aspect is the food, and I think a lot of us miss about it. So you must have seen a lot of times when your plant is a year or 2 years old and you're not feeding it, the rate of new leaves goes down, or it starts stooping in because it requires more energy now, which it's not getting from the soil. That's why you need slow releasers. Why slow releasers also is because these are made of all the minerals which you require. Any of the minerals which are available online, these ones like Basacoat, Nutricoat, or Nurturing Greens, Slow Releaser, or Osmocote, these are all available online and can be bought from any of the stores on Amazon or the websites, and they sustain for 6 to 8 months. So once you put it, every time you will water it, they will have some food going down into the soil and or into the media, and they will start growing healthy enough. And that's an important element. Also, why you require to do slow releasers only is because it every time gives some food. So every time you water it, so these are the slow releasers, if you can see, every time you water it, in these 1 layer or 2 layers sort of depletes, and the food goes into the soil. And it's easy to also recognize. So in 6-8 months they will go so small and then disappear, so then you can re-put in around. A plant like this should have 3 to 4 teaspoons of Basacoat or Nutricoats. They comes in 6 months or 9 months depending on what price you want to have. So ideally a 6 months is a good enough, and you can put it every 6 months. We use the 6 months most of our times, and that is a very, very important part of taking care of your plants, that food is you have to take care of and keep putting it. If you miss it, you will realize slowly that the growth of the plant is going down, right? And the older leaves are getting fast enough. So that's the third part on the plant care about the food. The fourth important element is the media in which the plant is growing. So a lot of my scientist friends and a lot of scientists across the world say that media is everything, right? Because whatever you're seeing on the top is actually because what's going inside, and what's going inside is all getting affected by the media you put in. We don't recommend soil because of it doesn't have porous. So if it's not porous, oxygen is not going in. If oxygen is not going in, plants are not breathing in, right? If roots are not breathing and not doing oxygen, so the photosynthesis is getting affected. If it's not porous, then it's clotting. If it's clotting, then there are fungal activity which can happen. So end of the day, it's very important that your media is very porous. It should have all the nutrients, or has the capability to absorb all the nutrients from the plant food, and it should help the root to take a grip as well as grow fast enough. So if I show you some examples of it, let me take this example here. Look at this plant, right? So in this, we have just watered it, and you can see that the water is trickling down, so you don't have to water it. If you again water it after second day and this is not got dried, you will see the fungal infections coming in. But if you see here, this is such a wonderful root and all the new roots are coming in, which means that the plant is really thriving well and enjoying the environment. You can see that there are a lot of these perlite and cocoa chips here. It keeps the media really porous enough. So it's easy for roots to maneuver and go for the search of water, or grow fast enough around it. They will create a root ball quickly around in a few months time in this one. So this is, and it has a very strong pores around, so there is no water which extra remains there. So that's for the terms of what the media should be. Again, there are a lot of potting mix which are available online. Most of the time when you buy a plant, check that it's in a cocopeat, especially the indoor plants, and Aglaonema. Aglaonemas must grow into the porous soil. If they don't like excess water, they will start stooping down. Right? A lot of people grow it in soil, but somehow it has to be taken a lot of care on in terms of the watering and the fungal activity. So that's the 4 cares which we have around from us in terms of taking care of an Aglaonema. In case you want to grow healthy babies and healthy Aglaonemas, make sure you follow all of these 4. In case you have any other problem in terms of repotting, or in terms of fungal activity happening at the base, or you're seeing any fungus or any bug on the leaves, you can just watch our other videos on My Plant My Baby page, and I have this Anukinuskes where I talk about how to repot, or what types of mealy bugs are there and how to remove them. So you can look at them and watch those videos on My Plant My Baby page on YouTube. You can also subscribe to it so that you keep getting these updates on different plant care and what are the new types of things which you should require to grow your babies more healthier. So that's from our side for this day. Thank you so much for watching My Plant My Baby. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Do subscribe to our channel, My Plant My Baby on YouTube,